Intertalk Radio, your in to all things music.
Welcome to Intersect Radio, where music, faith, and life converge. With your host, Aaron the A-Train Smith.
Welcome to Intersect. Oh, it's so good to be back. I've been away from the mic for a week. Yeah. And we're back. I got a brand new mic here for my voice, and it's all good, you know? It's Intersect Radio, powered by the Intertalk Radio Network. And before we get started with today's guest, I'd like to shout out to Pitbull Audio and Studio Instrument Rentals, major sponsors of the Intertalk Radio Network. And today, my very special guest is Professor Dave Perkins. When I met him, he wasn't a professor. Maybe he was a professor in sheep clothing at the time, but I always knew he had the potential of becoming a professor. But anyway, Dave has had 25 plus years in the music industry as a guitarist, songwriter, recording artist, producer, and a great friend. I love this guy, folks. And if you knew him, you'd love him too. And I know people that know him love him. It's just an automatic sort of thing. You cannot help but love Dave Perkins. He's worked with a number of iconic American music makers like Jerry Jeff Walker, Willie Nelson, Guy Clark, Vassar Clements, Emmylou Harris, Carole King, and Ray Charles, just to name a few. In 2012, Dave composed and recorded the soundtrack for the feature film Deadline. His 2009 album, Pistol City Holiness, on Lugnut Records, was widely praised by music critics and described as, and I quote, a blues rock masterpiece. And I agree very much with that quote, with those critics. Maybe I could be one of them, because they seem to have great taste. Professor Perkins, how are you, man? I mean, I could go on all day just reading your creds, and you wouldn't have a chance to say anything. Don't bother. Instead of doing that, huh?
I said I'm doing great.
Okay. Are you over at Vanderbilt? You're at school?
No, I left the office. I am sitting in my living room.
Okay. I asked Dave that, folks, because now, after doing all that, Dave is Associate Director in the Religion, in the Arts, and Contemporary Culture Department over at Vanderbilt Divinity School. And how he got there is going to be a very interesting story. And we're going to get started, but I want him to start from the beginning. Dave, tell us all about your childhood, how you got to music, why music, so on and so forth.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I didn't get to music. I was born into music. My mother and my father were both fine music makers. My mother was a vocalist. My father was a multi-keyboard genius, and that's how they got together, and that's how I got here from their making of music of one kind or another. And my mother and father performed often, and when I was a kid, I was often there at their performances. And
Okay.
I think the thing that probably hooked me into music is watching them perform. I saw the sort of the joy and the transcendence in their faces, which was much different than what I saw around the house. There was definitely a change of elevation, so to speak. And I think something inside me sort of bore witness that, hey, music is magic. So that's how I got into it. And from then on, it was just finding my own way, and that was not always easy. Both of my parents were classicists, and didn't much cater to rock and roll. And so when I got into playing guitar, it was some years of trying to come to some sort of agreement. The devil's music and all of that.
Yeah.
So, but I found my own way. And
did you have to hide your records under your bed and stuff like that? Were you one of those kids?
No, I had other things that I hid under the bed, but it wasn't my records. It was the thing that most 14-year-old kids hide under the bed if they can get their hands on them. But
yeah.
No, they didn't like it. It was a major cultural shift, and it wasn't so much because my parents were into classical music and high religious music as much as the world was changing so fast, and a lot of people were struggling. A lot of parents were struggling to understand the world that their kids were embracing. So it was, I think it was as much that as anything. But when I started to get some really great opportunities to play with people, they would come out and see the shows, and it's impressive. It's impressive to go
so
and see a kid playing to 20,000 people, or So they made their peace with it.
You kind of won them over, huh?
Yeah, I guess.
And you always played guitar?
Right. Yeah. They gave me piano lessons when I was a kid, and that just sort of didn't go anywhere with me. I think a lot of the reason is that I couldn't find myself on that instrument standing in my father's shadow, because he was brilliant and lots of acclaim, and I just never thought I could measure up to him. So I had to find my own space to have something to hang my hat on.
Yeah. Did you mention which instrument your mom played?
My mother was a vocalist, and she won she was from Ohio, but won a national a voice competition that had sort of national ramifications, and part of winning that was scholarships to I think 3 different schools. She wound up moving to Philadelphia to study at Curtis Institute of Music, which had a particularly great operatic faculty, there, and so she moved there. My father was from that area, and they met there. But yeah, she was a singer, and you know, all of my life coming up, my father accompanied her. He was also a soloist, but
so he'd do solo concerts, huh? Classical concerts. Was he a traveling soloist?
Yes, they traveled, but right before they got married, it's kind of interesting. They both had significant sort of religious, spiritual experiences. And they both began to make themselves available to play in those contexts. Not so much at churches, but at larger gatherings. And so met in that context. And my dad was asked to play one evening for my mom, and they hit it off, but they both sort of made a major turn in their musicality to sort of favor spiritual music, religious music, I would say. And so all the time I came up, that's really what they were doing. Occasionally, classical oriented performances, but a lot of it was sort of high church music. It wasn't as much gospel music, although they did get into a little bit of that as the years went on. But sort of. Well, again, sort of back in their classical training, I know in the Christmas season, my mother would be, sort of a first call soloist for, Handel's Messiah and things like that. So, but much of what I saw was them playing in large churches or at large sort of evangelical rallies and those kinds of things at municipal auditoriums and things like that.
Okay. Any particular denomination? No, my mother didn't have very much of a church upbringing, and so it was all really new to her when she sort of stepped into that world. My dad grew up in the United Methodist Church, and but it wasn't I don't know that it was much of a situation that demanded anything of you, on a sort of a personal commitment, other than, don't drink, don't run with wild women, all the, sort of a moral list. Yeah. But don't drink, don't smoke, don't hang out with people who do. How does that go?
Yeah, I guess so. But they both got into they both found their way to a sort of a very, to a kind of faith that was really sort of a personal journey, a personal quest toward, whatever the great mystery is.
Yeah. Did you guys attend church when your parents weren't like performing at church?
Yeah, when we were young, we continued to attend that church that my father grew up in, because my grandmother and a couple of my aunts and uncles still went there, and it was part of my dad's youth, so we would, attend there. But there came a point in time with them that, after so many years of, always being in sort of churchy type contexts, I got burned out, and and so the benefit of that was that I didn't have to go to church as much, which was at the age that I was at then was fine with me.
Yeah. All right. So how old were you when you, No, what were you about to say? How old were you when you got your guitar?
13. I think I started getting interested in guitars when I was 13. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any money. I couldn't afford a guitar. My dad sure wasn't going to buy me a guitar because that was like giving me a free pass to, the road to
rock and roll.
That's right. So, so I started buying pieces of guitars, which was really strange. I mean, I was so wanting to be in close to guitars that I remember the first thing I ever bought was a pickup for an electric guitar. A friend of mine had one. I bought it from him for $7, and I wish I still had that because it's probably a phenomenal sounding guitar pickup from back in the late 50s or early 60s. Wow. But I bought my first guitar. I think I was 14, maybe 15, and there was an area of Philadelphia called South Street. There was a famous R&B song called South Street, and but South Street was.
Hey, Dave. Dave, excuse.
Yep.
We got to pause here for commercial break, but when we come back, we're gonna hang out on the corner of South Street with you. South and what was the corner? South and what?
4th.
South and 4th. We'll be there when we get back. Thank you, folks, for listening. My guest Dave Perkins today. Before we go to commercial break, thank you to the guys at Innovative Percussion, and y'all come back, hang out with us on South and 4th in Philly.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
welcome to Intersect Radio, where music, faith, and life converge. With your host, Aaron the A-Train Smith.
When your stars all fall, when the darkness calls, you were meant to be. Stand when your weary love has been pushed and shoved, you were meant to be.
That was today's guest, Professor Dave Perkins. Welcome back to Intersect. Before we took our commercial break, we were about to accompany Dave to the corner of South and 4th in Philadelphia. And we want you all to venture there with us now. Bring your coats because I'm sure it's pretty cold there right now. But so, Dave, take us
yes, sir.
to South and 4th as a 14-year-old.
Well, my dad had a bookstore in Philadelphia, and I used to have to accompany him in on Saturdays, just to help him keep an eye on the store. And but a lot of that time, he would turn me loose to go explore the city, which I started doing that when I was 12 years old, and being turned loose in a big city. It was really great. And so I explored different parts of town, knew where music stores were. And the great thing about South Street, it was a very vibrant part of the downtown African-American community. A lot of businesses on South Street, including 3 or 4 pawn shops that were absolutely filled with wonderful guitars. And so I saved my money, went down there with a Saturday, talked one of my friends into going down there with me, and bought a gold sparkle Harney archtop electric guitar, brought it home, had no idea even how to tune it. So I tuned it to a chord, started just barring it up and down the neck of the guitar, and anything that you could play in a major key, where all the chords are majors, you could play like that. So that's how I got started. That was my first guitar, but that was sort of my gateway drug to guitars. It was not long before I was trading guitars, trading other things that I owned for guitars, working for guitars, and and pretty quickly got myself into having instruments that actually would encourage me to want to play well.
Good.
So that's how I got started on guitar.
So you played through high school. I mean, were you playing out during high school years or just playing at home?
No, the folk music boom was happening back then. So one of the things I did pretty quickly was to get an acoustic guitar and start learning folk songs. Then there were coffee houses springing up all over the place, and there was one close to where we lived in New Jersey, and somehow I talked the guy into letting me play out there. And so we used to go out there and play, and be a handful of people, but that's really where I sort of cut my teeth as a singer-songwriter type. One guy with a guitar standing up in front of people playing his songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did we lose you, Dave?
No, I'm here. I was just wanted to leave your room to comment.
Hello, Dave, are you there?
So that was to answer the other part of your question. That was high school, junior and senior year. So when I went off to college, I had actually gotten pretty decent at that point, and it was great to go off to college and have something. I mean, I wasn't a phenomenal athlete, but music was my thing to sort of make my name in new places. And so,
where'd you go to college?
Well, I started at a school in upstate New York called Houghton, Houghton. But I was asked to leave Houghton. I found it really difficult to abide by their code of personal conduct. Nothing too significant, and it sounds pretty petty in these days, but it was actually good because I moved on to the South, which was really an important part of my musical education. I went to school at Georgia College, which is in Milledgeville, Georgia. One of Milledgeville's claims is that's where Flannery O'Connor lived, and so I got indoctrinated into Flannery's, not only her actual writing, but her just sort of renegade spirit. I loved that about her, and as a maker of art, it was a model that I started to use when I thought about myself in my own music making. But Milledgeville was very close to Macon, Georgia, and Macon was, in terms of Southern black music, was one of the big towns. Otis Redding lived there. James Brown lived there off and on. Joe Tex, Arthur Conley, a lot of great Muscle Shoals and Stax Volts R&B artists lived there.
What attracted you to that?
Well, Phil Walden started a company called Capricorn Records, and he was building the label with. He had been Otis Redding's manager, and when Otis was killed in the plane wreck, I think there were some insurance monies involved, and also Otis's widow went into business with Phil, and they built the label on a band called the Allman Brothers. And so the Allman Brothers came to Macon, Georgia, while I was in college, and I would go see them play. And I think certainly as a guitarist, that band, Duane Allman and Dickie Betts, had more influence on me than anybody, I think. And one of the reasons is because they channeled some of the people that I loved to begin with, like Muddy Waters and so many of the great Chicago blues players were living second lives in their music, as they were in people like Eric Clapton, who was also an influence, I think, to anybody playing guitar in those days. But I moved to Macon right after college and sort of immersed myself in all of the kinds of Southern music that were happening there, along with all of the things that were going on with Capricorn Records, which was growing super fast and drawing artists from all over the world.
Yeah.
It was a great town to begin to be a professional guitarist in.
Yeah, yeah. What year is this?
That was 1971, 72, and a little bit of 73.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That was a great time for music, from the 60s leading up to the late 70s, it was still pretty electric and eclectic.
It was a great place to be. So many different things going on there, and the cool thing about it was that, and I'm not sure why Macon was like this, but it was one of the only towns especially smaller towns in the South, where there was a lot of interaction between the black community and the white community. And, when I lived in Macon, we played black clubs. Grant's Lounge was the place we played all the time. We ate at the H&H restaurant, which was still the greatest soul food restaurant in the continental United States. But that was its own kind of education, culturally and musically, for sure. So yeah, it all went together into sort of the beginnings of me forming an idea of who I was as a guitar player, and people around me, people that I was seeing in clubs every night and hanging out with during the day, were writing songs that were all over the radio, and so being close to it is a big help.
So did you become friends with the Allman Brothers?
Well, I knew them not as good friends, but definitely, hanging out. My band would play at Grant's Lounge, and I remember a number of nights that a lot of the guys in the band would be there, but the guys that I knew the best were the road crew guys, who, sort of like the Grateful Dead, the Allman Brothers road crew was as famous as the band, almost. And tremendously high living, high life force group of guys, but Red Dog, Mike Callahan, few of the other guys, Larry Brantley, actually worked for my band and then went to work for the Allman Brothers, and that was another sort of inside connection. But
was your band the Dave Perkins band?
No. When I was in Macon, we had a band called Uncle Pleasant, which was named after a Tennessee Williams character.
Okay. All right.
We had several iterations of the band over that 3 or so years that I was there, with some, really, really excellent players sort of came through the ranks of the band.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
anybody
great.
We would know?
Well, if you lived in the South, you might know Bill Pound, who was a phenomenal guitar player. He was the guitar player in one of the first rock bands in Macon called the Boogie Chillin'. But after Uncle Pleasant was finished, he teamed up with another songwriter named Terry Rogers, and they had a group called Pound and Rogers that did some recordings together, but played all over the South and were a much respected songwriting duo.
Okay. Did your band like play all over the South? The circuit.
That band was more regional. It was Macon, Athens, Atlanta. Some work in the Carolinas, a little bit into Tennessee, and down into Florida. Yeah, we played a lot down into Florida. But
what kind of band was it? Was it a blues band?
No, it had some blues it had some blues inflections in it, but it was it was a blues band like Traffic was a blues band. There were all kinds of things going on in the music.
All original?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we would play clubs, a lot of colleges, and then, we were always sort of on a few promoters' call lists for opening acts, and we did all kinds of opening acts. I remember a string of dates we did with Ted Nugent, which was really sort of wild for us. We had yet to be exposed to leopard spandex. So, small town Southern guys had not yet seen big hair and,
right.
crotch emphasizing spandex pants.
So tell me, I know you went to Woodstock. How did that happen?
No, I didn't.
You didn't go to Woodstock?
No.
I thought you lived up there for a while.
Well, I did. Yeah, I went from Macon.
Well, that's
to
what
Woodstock.
I mean. Yeah, I didn't mean the festival.
The festival.
Sorry.
Yeah. I went up. I went up there in. I think I get. Man, the years are all starting to transpose on each other. I think it was. I'm
going to give you a little moment to think about those years here, because we want to know the details, buddy. We're going to take a pause for a very important cause. Yeah, we'll come back and we'll join Dave at Woodstock. Boy, we've been all over the United States Eastern Seaboard, haven't we, with you? So, folks, just hang in there. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Again, my guest is Professor Dave Perkins. Shout out to Pitbull Audio, Studio Instrument Rentals, and Innovative Percussion. Be right back.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Welcome to Intersect Radio, where music, faith, and life converge. With your host, Aaron the A-Train Smith.
To be redeemed. Oh, to be redeemed. To be redeemed. Redeemed from the grip of the mighty, from the jaws of the lion. To be redeemed, this side of Zion. The river runs swift, the river runs wide. One day we'll stand up.
Folks, that's my guest, Dr. Dave Perkins. To be redeemed on this side of Zion. It's a great thing. Simul ustus est et peccator, simultaneously sinner and saint. It's a wonderful thing. It's very mysterious, but we thank God for it, don't we, Dave? And we've been traveling with Dave up and down the eastern seaboard. Now we're going from the south up to Woodstock, New York. So, Dave, what happened in Woodstock? Yeah. Why Woodstock?
Aaron, I'm in the middle of a massive thunderstorm.
Oh, you are?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I wondered where you were.
Yeah, it just, it sounded like it was right outside my door.
I'm down in the fallout shelter, so I don't hear that stuff, you know.
I think it's God telling me to mind my P's and Q's.
Dave, build me an ark. What's an ark? Anyway.
So, where were we?
We were on our way to Woodstock.
Oh, okay, right. Well, yeah, just one of the stops along the way in my musical education, I guess. You know, pre-internet days, you sort of had to get in your car or get on a bus and go, go find it. And Woodstock was one of those towns, sort of like Macon, where there were a lot of people who were sort of high up in the echelons of visibility in terms of music makers.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't New York City and LA. It was a smaller context, and you could actually sort of get close to people and learn from them. Woodstock was a great town. The band was there.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan had just left. Janis Joplin, who lived there, had just passed away, and I did gigs up there with bits and pieces of her last band. So it was another location where I got to make music with people who had really done it big, and I'm still a kid really at this point in time. So Woodstock was a great stop along the way for me, and I don't know, I loved it up there. I might still be there had it not been for the winters in the Catskill Mountains. It's pretty brutal, especially if you've already acclimated as a Southerner and your blood has thinned out. So after that first winter, when spring started to come, I knew I needed to get south again. So I thought I'd give Nashville a try. I didn't know anybody in Nashville, but I came down. A friend of mine had a friend who worked for the band Little Feat, and they were going out on tour, so we got to stay at this guy's house while he was gone for 3 months. And during that time, I sort of got a toehold in Nashville. And, when I'm still here, one of the reasons is because I met my fantastic wife here. And she had a big family in Nashville, and so I'm still here. But between, sort of in my time in Nashville, I've worked in concentrations in other places. And one of the important ones to me was Austin, Texas.
Okay.
I've been playing with Vassar Clements, who was, I think people still think of him as the world's greatest fiddle player ever. But I played with Vassar, and we were opening up a couple of tours with an artist named Jerry Jeff Walker. And it wasn't too long before somehow I was in Jerry Jeff's band and spending a lot more time in Austin and being part of a rhythm section with the guys from Jerry's band. And that rhythm section got to make records with people like Carole King, and Guy Clark became a friend, and I did an album with him down there, and actually went on the road with him for a while. And, he recently passed away, one of the greatest American songwriters ever. But some other great things that happened down there were the connections with Willie Nelson, and I was never formally a member of Willie's band, but did, I think, 3 long tours. Willie Nelson, Jerry Jeff Walker tours, and where I got to play many nights, just sitting in with Willie, and that was another.
Oh, that's great.
Another interesting education.
Yeah.
So Austin was great, and gave me all kinds of sort of nuances to myself, especially I think of the songwriting.
Yeah.
department.
How long were you there?
Off and on for over 2 years.
Okay.
Maybe even a little bit longer.
And so you hadn't met Sue. You hadn't met Sue by this time.
Well, I sort of did in the middle of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I still had a place in Nashville. I was still thinking that Nashville was home, and I would, if there was no work to do, I would be back in Nashville, and that's and I met Sue here, and so that those are some of the stops along the way, and there was a healthy period in New York City in the late 70s and early 80s. That was with the Dave Perkins band. We had developed quite a following in New York. That was, as hard as it is sometimes to get a following in New York, that was one of the places that embraced what we were doing musically with the most vigor, which was great.
Did you ever go down to the city and play?
Say that again?
Did you ever go down to the city with your band and play, or was this mostly upstate New York?
No, this was in the city.
Within the city?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this was in the city. Yeah, we lived in the city and right in Greenwich Village, Baker Street, and I'll send a shout out to my friend Bridget. Thank you, Bridget, for giving up your place so many nights.
Yeah, thanks, Bridget. For taking care of my bud.
And Roger, too.
Yeah, Roger, too. Thank you. Hey, speaking of that, ladies and gentlemen, I have to let you guys know that when I first moved to Nashville, I had friends I moved here with around the same time from Sacramento, and I was trying to get established here. I was commuting back and forth from here to Sacramento, much like you, Dave, were commuting from Nashville to Austin. And when I wasn't busy here, I'd go back home to Sacramento. But I remember getting a call from Dave to come over to his studio. He had this great bus in his backyard that housed all of his recording gear, his board, speakers, and stuff like that, and all the controls. And the instruments were in the basement of the house. It's the first time I'd ever been to a studio like that. And I must tell you, Dave, in the summertime, that bus was hot as hell. But it was all right because the basement was pretty cool. We'd all run it. Yeah,
without air conditioning, it's just that you got people coming and going and leaving the door open.
Yeah, man. And Nashville in the summertime can be like...
Yeah, it was hard to keep it cool.
Terrible. But anyway, so I go my first visit over to Dave's, and I'm about to leave and go home, and Dave sticks out his hand and gives me $100 bill and says, "Welcome to town." You remember that?
No.
Oh, I'll never forget it. I mean, I, what do you say to something like that? And he's always been a great friend of mine, and called me back to his house for many more sessions, and we had great times in that basement and in the bus, and it was pretty cool. But I just wanted people to know that about you, Dave.
Well, it also helps if you're a great drummer. So,
I don't know. There's a lot of great drummers here in town. Did you give them all $100?
So that's where it all went.
All right. So at what point did you finally come back to Nashville and stay and figured that, okay, I've done the South, I've done Woodstock, I've done Austin. You hit all these major cities and lived there and learned and performed there in Nashville, and then you finally come back to Nashville and you stay.
Well,
you don't venture out and move to other places anymore after a certain period. What was that motivational factor?
My wife put my back against the wall early in our marriage and said, "All right, I'll chase this thing with you if, when we have children, when our children are ready to school, you'll pick a place, or we'll pick a place together, and we'll settle down so our kids can have, if they choose to have a normal life, they can have a normal life."
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I came back to Nashville. And that was pretty much from up north. I was doing all my work in New York City, and we just decided Nashville was going to be the place. We had, a support group here,
right.
Not only Sue's family, but we had friends here, and so we just thought, okay, it's going to be Nashville, for better or worse. And
mm-hmm.
the great news is that it turned out to be for the better, because Nashville has continued to grow into, one of the best towns in the country, one of the best places to live, whether you're a music maker or not. It's just,
right.
It's a gracious place to to live and to raise a family. And so, yeah, it was a good move. Yeah,
Dave, I'm gonna have to cut you off here. I agree wholeheartedly about Nashville, and I don't know, this segment seemed a lot shorter than the other two, but can I get you to come back for another hour? It's maybe next Tuesday.
Yeah, of course.
Cool, because we have a lot to cover. So, folks, you heard it. He committed. He's going to be back next Tuesday, and we're gonna take up his time in Nashville and all the great stuff he did here. Chagall Guevara, producing Amy Grant records, all that sort of stuff. Rick Kua, Randy Stonehill. So, be back next week.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be the music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectic Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. Pitbullaudio.com.